So the way that we thought about this is kind of 10 mindsets, if you will, and I'll quickly go through them here, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So Bill had some fun kind of coming up with this, innovation to innovation mindset, and we had a little bit more fun coming up with some of the wording around these to kind of drive the point home, but I think you'll get it. So top to bottom, right? So going from incremental to the exponential, really thinking about little feature improvements are fine. I mean, that's great. You went from a blue thing to a purple thing, but ultimately we really start to have to move at this exponential rate of growth and leveraging these technologies to stay ahead of the curve. So you really can't expect to compete in the future if you're not operating in that exponential mindset. So the blah to the blow. A tech focus to a people focus. I think we're probably all feeling this a lot these days. The technology has become fairly overwhelming, and when the people part of that equation is lost, there's just it's a loss of value, right? We really want to stay focused on what is the human problem that we're solving, and let the technology ultimately work its way into there in the right way, but not just tech for tech's sake. Activity to achievement. One of the things that we used to hear a lot in corporate innovation space at conferences was, what are we measuring? What are we measuring? What are we measuring, right? And now I think the measurement piece of this is not lost on any of us, but instead of counting ideas, it really is about what ideas made the biggest impact. Did you move them out? How fast did we actually get that idea to market? And ultimately, what has it done from an ROI standpoint, or ultimately, done to change a customer's world, right? How have we made the world a little bit of a better place? From the theoretical to the experiential. So, getting through that concept phase, while I do believe it's a good phase to go through, we do, I think all still leverage, some kind of variation of design thinking in different ways, depending on what product we're building. So I'm a huge fan of concepts when they're based on kind of future customer needs, but getting to that experiential as fast as possible, right? Getting it into one's hands, testing it, and then ultimately learning as we go. Is still, I think, a tried and true practice, and that's becoming all the more evident as we think about speed and these tools that allow us to do that much faster. Going from the idea negative to the idea positive, bad till proven good versus good till proven bad. I think that we all have the naysayers in our organizations that will come at it from a, this hasn't worked ever, or we did it before, or, what makes you think this one will work? That still happens. I think we all can kind of go there sometimes for ourselves. But I think from a culture standpoint and a mindset standpoint, we really have to allow ourselves to move to the right the best we can, as much as we can. That way we have the opportunity to really support these things the way that they should be and not kill them from the onset. Finally, from a prediction to an exploration model, right? So this idea of confident guessing and going towards curious action. Astrid Teller would always say, it's not a good experiment if you know the outcome before you start. I'm sure you've probably seen that in some presentations. People use that one quite often in conferences. I like this idea of saying, if I most likely know where it's going to go, or I'm guessing for it, that's probably not the right way for me to think about it. I really want to go at it at an open mind. I was seeing, I think one of the conversations that was earlier on in this conference, in the video that you shared out, Hans, on LinkedIn earlier today, going at it from a don't know the solution too quickly, right? Really stop and allow yourself the opportunity to stay in learner mode. That way we can go at this before we start solutioning to be in a more curious way, and ultimately I think arrive at a better place. The conservation versus the ideation. So the old no, the risk taking, the old no, we can't, and here's why, to the aha ideation, right? So, coming up with ideas. We all know ideation is obviously a huge piece of what we do every day. But I think allowing the groups, the space, the culture, the mindset to be able to do that in a positive and fun way. And last few, so fiscal impatience versus fiscal patience. So some money now versus big money later. It's a CFO reminder there, screen capture it and send it to them. I know I still, ultimately with the lawyers and the finance people, it's something we always have to balance, is how do we stay focused on it? And for me, the better and more clarity that we have on that future vision that I talked about in the beginning, the easier it is to come back and point things towards, don't forget where we're trying to go, right? Don't go for the small incremental now and risk the larger vision of what we're trying to achieve, and really being able to point back to, the kind of larger vision and keep people focused there. The innovation garden versus the innovation jungle. So orderly and safe versus chaotic and dangerous. This is probably one of my favorites, right? Like we all know that innovation can be ugly. It doesn't, as much as we build these flow charts and stage gating and everyone's got their process, linear or circles, and we all draw them a little bit differently. It seems to never go through the same way twice in many cases. And so, for me, I like the idea of appreciating that we're trying to bring order to chaos, but at the same time, chaos is what we do, right? That's what makes it fun. I think it's what draws us to these jobs, and really living in that and being comfortable with it. I'm constantly reminding my teams, this is the ugly middle. We're building something that's never been done before. Trust the process, know that we're going to get through it. And at the end, while it feels like a jungle, we'll make it through that jungle together. And then lastly, so siloed thinking versus systems thinking. In an extremely complex world, this has become kind of a best practice. We hear about it, I think, all the time, but really living into this mindset and appreciating the nuances of it, it's hard, right? We want to be able to actually move over here, but I'll say this is one where even I get stuck. We have to appreciate just the idiosyncrasy, all of the complexity of the world around us. The different systems, supply chains, technologies that are touching other, like it's crazy. So as much as you can kind of work yourself into a mindset that allows you to appreciate that, I think the better.